Ember Witch. Book 1. The Lich. Volume 1. Black Tragedy. Chapter 1. The Blade in the Tree. April 5th to August 12th, 457 BME. Fragment 3. The Exiled. As the two made their way into Sina's tent, Jolan threw Fevra onto the floor.
Sina, get in here now.
Jolan called, and Sina, with a grunt, rose from his room off to the corner to see only two before him, both covered in blood and exhausted.
What in the gods happened?
Sina asked in shock.
We were slaughtered by this traitor. He used a magic blade to murder his own pack and even his own blood. Everyone is rotting in the forest like a diseased animal, and this hunter was the blight.
Jolan said with such malice Sina could smell it.
My God, is this true, Fevra?
Sina asked, trying not to let Jolan's emotions cloud the truth.
I couldn't stop it. I couldn't fight it.
Fevra said in horror, reliving the events.
The blade is still out there with their bodies. We must recover them and the sword with every available mage we can spare. This blade is evil, it speaks with its own mind, it looks into your soul and taunts you. I believe the Grand Mage himself would fall prey to its influence.
Jolan said, keeping his blade pointed at Fevra.
If what you say is true, then we must hide it away. Perhaps the mages of the Rose and Rain will be able to house it safely with the tree.
Sina said, pacing back and forth before Fevra.
And what of him?
Jolan asked with hatred.
If he was under this artifact's spell, then he is innocent in this.
Sina said, looking down to the injured wolf before him.
We cannot go against law, Sina. Anyone guilty of murder must be exiled from the forest. No matter the circumstances, he murdered 4 of his pack, including his own blood. He must be barred from these woods and left for the beasts, as is law for all clans.
Jolan said.
You are correct. I am afraid, Fevra, that no matter what comes of this, you will be exiled from the forest. It's a shame this has transpired.
Sina said, then called for the 2 men that stood watch over his tent. They entered calmly, each wearing redwood armor, crafted to fit their distinctively large stature.
Please take Fevra to the hole. Have a healer attend to his injury and bind him.
Sina said, then exited the tent with Jolan. The 2 bulky wolves picked Fevra up by the arms and walked him to the hole. A gaping maw dug into the ground with a large wooden gate built upon it. They opened the gate and placed Fevra inside, then got a young healer to attend to his wound and place a binding spell upon him.
I don't know what you did to deserve this, Fevra. I am sorry.
Dorsha said with remorse. Fevra didn't say a word. Instead, he kept his head down, tears streaming down his face. Sina, Jolan, Hesha, Kree, and 12 other mages approached the tree, slowly keeping their guard up. From what Jolan had described, no one wanted to take the chance on the sword. Sina stepped forward, looking at the carnage of each pack member he had lost in the night. The pieces of barrack and loker piled together in a heap. The 2 halves of Turda impossibly cut from skull to pelvis in a near-perfect way, and the severed head of Gilla. He wanted to cry, but stood strong in the presence of death.
What in the gods? This is unnatural.
Kree said as she walked amongst the crowd.
That it is, the void of color all around us. This was no act of murder, this was slaughter for pleasure. This is the work of evil.
Hesha said as he scanned the scene, his color drawn around him. He approached the blade and extended his aura around it.
Dear gods, this sword is made from the darkest magic I have ever seen. It has no color, no energy I have ever felt before. It's almost otherworldly in nature. What did you say it wanted from you?
He asked Jolan as he pressed a binding spell into it.
It spoke as if it was unaware of who or what it was. I'm guessing it wanted to recover its memory.
He answered, then began picking up body parts with the rest of the crowd, placing them in cloth on a cart.
I had heard about mages of old attempting to transfer their soul into a different body, but never had it succeeded. If this is the case, we are dealing with magic so powerful that even the gods may not be able to match it.
Hesha said, and attempted to lift the blade, but couldn't budge it even an inch.
How Fevra could even lift this is beyond me, let alone swing it. This sword must weigh more than 4 times his body weight.
Hesha said as he stood up.
My blade was shattered by a single swing. Whatever this thing is, it is made of something far stronger than even diamonds. As little as I care for magic, this is the most incredibly terrifying thing I have ever encountered.
Jolan said, looking at the beautiful yet flawed blade laying on the forest floor.
We must keep this locked away from the world no matter what. It is far too unpredictable and dangerous for any mage to understand. Perhaps in time we will understand what exactly it is, but for now we must take it to the Rosen Rain where it can be protected. You four wrap this up in cloth and place it in the cart,
Hesha said, instructing 4 of the wolves who had accompanied him. They lifted the sword with a struggle and placed it next to the blood-soaked body bags.
Let us be rid of this terrible tragedy quickly,
Hesha said and signaled for their return to camp. Fevra sat calmly in the hole awaiting his fate. He couldn't think. He could shed no more tears over his brother as he had already been crying the entire night and into the next day. He was exhausted but stayed awake, just waiting to be exiled from his pack and home. He heard a large commotion from his position in the hole and knew the pack had returned with the bodies and blade. He stood up in hopes to glimpse his brother one last time, but the cart had been covered with cloth. He frowned and sat against the dirt wall, putting his head down. An hour passed as he listened to his people grieve without him. No doubt they had laid his brother to rest, and he could only imagine the pain the others were feeling.
I will see to Fevra,
Hesha said to the group and approached the hole.
Open it,
He said to the 2 guards, and they unlocked and opened the wooden door, allowing Hesha to walk down the dirt stairs into the hole.
It is time, Fevra. You know the laws of our clan. For your crimes you shall be judged by your pack and exiled from these woods,
Hesha said as he paced before Fevra.
Please let me say goodbye to him. I deserve at least that much.
Fevra said, keeping his head down in misery.
No matter how bad things seem, I will allow you to say your last words. I am sorry this is how it has to be. I truly am,
Hesha said and led Fevra up the stairs and out of the hole. The bodies had been placed in the ground by the time Fevra and Hesha arrived. Fevra dropped to his knees at the edge of Loker's grave.
I am sorry, my brother. I regret everything I have done. I will live on in your memory even when I am exiled. I am sorry,
He said softly, then stood up.
It is time.
Hesha said, and they both walked to the center of their camp.
We are gathered here today because of the crimes of one of our own. Fevra has committed an ultimate sin by not only murdering his pack mates but his own blood as well. It is a sad truth that 4 of our pack have been laid to rest today and that we must do this, but our laws are absolute. No man, woman or child is exempt from these laws, and it is our duty to uphold the peace we have. Today we exile Fevra from our pack and this forest. Never shall he return or be welcomed back to our society. May he find solace in his sins and come to peace with what he has done. Fevra, these are your last moments as a Lyran hunter. Make peace with your sins and leave your family name behind. From this moment forward you are now Fevra the Exiled,
Hesha said as he picked up a metal rod from a deep burning fire. Fevra braced his body against the wooden post he was tied to, preparing himself for the pain. Hesha walked a few paces forward and placed the red-hot pole to Fevra's forehead, burning a sideways eye into his flesh.
The mark of exile has been given, now your peers may cast their judgment upon you,
Hesha said through Fevra's screams of pain. He stepped aside, allowing the crowd to watch as Fevra fell unconscious.
The ceremony is complete. Sina and I will bind and escort him from these woods,
Hesha said and placed his hand upon Fevra's chest, pressing energy into him. Sina stepped forward and did the same, then the 2 of them cut him from the post, placed him on a cart and left the camp as the crowd around them followed yelling curses. Jolan and 10 mages were sent out before the exile with the black blade. Each mage was warned of the blade's power and assigned to bind it every 2 hours to keep it from awakening. It was a long journey to the Rosen Rain, but no one complained. They had a job to do and knew what was at stake if they failed. For Jolan it was a triumphant return home. He was sent away to assist with hunts, but now he returned with an artifact the mages could study for generations. he would be considered a hero. A scholarly saint to his people. He walked with pride knowing his fate had changed in a most profound way. Hesha and Sina had stopped the cart at the border of the forest. They had taken to blindfolding Fevra to keep him from knowing his exact location. Although this was just a formality. Every Lyran could rely on their nose, and they had no doubt that Fevra was familiar with the area enough to know where he was. They led him off the cart, untied his hands, and left him with only a short sword.
I am sorry, Fevra, I truly am.
Were the last words Sina said before they left him.